So, almost everyone knows where they were almost 20 years ago to the day on September 11th, but it's what the country and the major figures have been through since then that really no one could have seen coming. John Avalon with a reality check.
It's been 20 years. Roughly a third of Americans were either children or not yet born during the attacks of 9/11. But trust me when I say that our nation was briefly united in shock and grief and resolve. And as hard as it might be to believe, we even transcended partisan politics for a time. Which is why, looking back, it's kind of surreal to see where we've ended up now. I mean, who would have believed that the Taliban, who gave shelter to bin Laden, would be back in control of Afghanistan after a 20-year war that cost America an estimated $2 trillion, nearly 2,500 U.S. soldiers' lives? Who would have believed that Rudy Giuliani, a man known as America's mayor, would find his reputation in tatters? After the attacks, he was compared to Churchill, lauded as a tower of strength across partisan lines, and I was proud to work for him in City Hall. 20 years later, he's under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office that he once led. His words and actions played a role in the first dual impeachment of a president in American history, culminating in a call for trial by combat before an attack on our Capitol. And who would have believed that Donald Trump, the man who bragged on 9/11 that his building was now the tallest in the New York skyline, would have been elected president as a Republican after attacking the freedom agenda of the Bush administration, banning immigration from several majority Muslim nations while negotiating a peace deal with the Taliban that excluded our allied Afghan government? Or that deal would be followed through by the next president, Joe Biden. He'd been a senator for almost 30 years when he did a September 20th, 2001 town hall with CNN's Crossfire, co-hosted by young Tucker Carlson. The one-time bow tie aficionado is now a conservative populist Fox News host who opposes foreign wars. But back then, he was already floating the false idea that Iraq had something to do with the attack.
Israeli intelligence group that knows a lot about terrorism obviously apparently believes that Iraq had a role in this. That's a view that's gaining currency in Washington. A, do you think that that's true, Iraq had a role? And B, does that make Iraq the enemy?
Look, big nations can't bluff. We can't miss on this. We cannot go out and cause the coalition that this administration has painstakingly put together, including the Arab world, including the Islamic world, including our erstwhile former enemies and or possible adversaries in the future. We can't go out there and make a mistake or, in a sense, declare war on every country that has in any way harbored terrorists in the past.
Of course, the invasion of Iraq is where things really started to go off the rails. America overreached, our moral authority was compromised, and we took our eye off what should have been the singular focus: stopping radical Islamist terrorists, trying instead to remake the Middle East. Instead, 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is still in Guantanamo Bay and getting a new pretrial hearing this week. Should have been tried in a U.S. court, preferably in New York, a long time ago. And to add insult to injury, this Saturday, while Presidents Bush and Obama and Biden mark the anniversary at 9/11 memorials across the nation, ex-President Trump will be providing color commentary for a fight between aging heavyweights in Florida. So much for never forget. But none of these tragic and ironic twists should distract us from remembering what happened that day. We cannot give in to 9/11 amnesia. Because that day, our nation met the worst of humanity with the best of humanity. The firefighters and police officers and passengers on Flight 93 set an enduring example of what courage in a democracy looks like. They ran toward danger to help other people, people they didn't know. They ran into the fire, showing a selfless commitment to the common good in a time of crisis. I've always resisted calling the attacks of 9/11 a tragedy. It was an act of war. Tragedies are self-inflicted. But that brings me to a final sickening twist. It's always been a given that our nation could unite in a time of crisis. But we can no longer take that for granted now. That's something we've done to ourselves. But it's not something we have to accept as inevitable. I still believe that the character of our country has not changed. That's why we need to learn from history and honor the examples of the heroes of 9/11 now more than ever, channeling their commitment to the common good toward defending our shared democracy. That's the defining challenge of our times now. And that's your reality check.
Look, we had a national tragedy. We had COVID. We know for a fact that there are those unwilling to come together. I'm not sure it's equal blame on all sides
It's not.
in this case, but it is notable. John Avlon, thank you.
Thank you.